Caitlin Clark's name is everywhere in the negotiation rooms, but not for her performance on the court. As the WNBA's labor crisis reaches its boiling point, union leaders are invoking her star status to demand sweeping changes. Better pay, revenue cuts, and structural respect. Yet Adam Silver has drawn a hard line, standing before cameras just days before the lockout deadline.
If you're here for the real story and not the filter version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
He criticized the negotiations' tone and direction, signaling to both Clark and fellow player advocate Sophie Cunningham that personal demands and symbolic battles won't override economic truth. Silver's point is clear. The NBA's billions can't justify unrealistic expectations in a financially smaller league. The tension now is palpable. What began as a fight for better pay has mutated into a referendum on league leadership, fairness, and long-term viability. Lawmakers are stepping in. Media scrutiny is mounting, and Angelbird's position as WNBA commissioner has never been more fragile. With players pushing for a revolution and owners guarding stability, the next few days could reset the league or tear it apart. It was supposed to be a negotiation, quiet, professional behind closed doors. But with just 68 hours before a potential WNBA lockout, those doors have been blown off their hinges. And at the center of the wreckage, a public showdown between players, league officials, and now Adam Silver himself, who just called out both sides on live television and left zero room for misinterpretation. Silver's tone was measured, but the subtext was cutting. He didn't just wade into the chaos. He dropped a reality check directly on the negotiation table, and in doing so, pulled Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham into the line of fire. Both players, willingly or not, have become central figures in a labor dispute that's turned into a league-wide identity crisis. And when the NBA commissioner is the one stepping in to provide direction, it's clear the situation has officially spiraled out of control. This isn't just about paychecks anymore. The WNBA is standing on the edge of a cliff, financially, structurally, and reputationally. Players are demanding more money, better benefits, a bigger slice of revenue, and overall recognition that matches the spotlight they've helped create. The union is citing players like Caitlin Clark as proof the league's value is rising fast. Her star power has brought new eyes, bigger crowds, and the kind of media buzz the league has long struggled to generate. So now, the players want that buzz reflected in their contracts. But there's a massive, stubborn gap between visibility and viability. The WNBA, while gaining popularity, still doesn't generate anywhere near the revenue the NBA does. And that's the heart of Adam Silver's intervention. He's not arguing that the players don't deserve more. He's arguing that percentage-based revenue sharing, like what the NBA uses, simply doesn't make financial sense when the numbers aren't remotely comparable. Silver's pushing for absolute dollar increases instead, which sounds reasonable, until you factor in how long players have waited to feel like they're finally getting their due. The problem is, everyone thinks they're being reasonable. That's what makes this mess so combustible. The players believe they've earned the right to push for structural change. They're pointing to record-breaking rookies, cultural relevance, political support, and rising TV ratings. Meanwhile, the league is staring at a spreadsheet that says, "Not yet." And now Adam Silver, the man who normally plays silent big brother to the WNBA, has taken a very public stance. He's condemning the tone of the negotiations, saying the demands have become unreasonable, and warning that personal animosity is only making a difficult situation worse. Translation: everyone needs to calm down and grow up, or this whole thing is going to crash. And that crash is coming fast. A lockout in just 68 hours would shut down the league completely. No practices, no pay, no season. For many WNBA players, especially those without major endorsements or overseas gigs, that means no income. Full stop. And with the team's salary cap sitting at just $1.5 million, that's not a hit most players are in a position to take. The financial precarity is real, and it makes the union's urgency understandable. But it also underscores Silver's point. The margin for error is razor thin. Meanwhile, there's another storm brewing inside the league itself. Commissioner Kathy Angelbert is facing growing criticism, with voices both inside and outside the league accusing her of stalling progress. The accusations aren't subtle. Some are outright demanding her resignation, claiming she's failed to lead through the most pivotal moment in modern WNBA history. It's not just that negotiations are tense. It's that no one seems to trust the process anymore. And leadership, or the lack of it, is becoming a major liability. That mistrust is bleeding into every corner of the conversation. Political pressure from lawmakers is adding even more weight to an already delicate balance. U.S. politicians are calling for good faith negotiations before the October 31st deadline, framing this as more than a labor dispute. To them, it's about gender equity, fair treatment, and the broader cultural battle over how women's sports are valued in America. But that kind of external pressure can backfire. It makes compromise harder, not easier. Every side feels scrutinized. Every decision feels performative. And the closer we get to the deadline, the more it seems like nobody wants to be the first to blink. The numbers paint a grim picture. WNBA salaries range from around $66,000 to $249,000. Players are trying to exist in a professional league that treats them like part-time employees. The union wants to overhaul the system, to move beyond the NBA's charity model and create something self-sustaining, something transformational. But the league is pushing back hard, clinging to financial constraints and warning that radical changes could cause more damage than progress. Adam Silver's approach? A balance. Not platitudes, not symbolism, just hard math. He's promising raises. He's vowing support. But he's also not entertaining the fantasy that the WNBA can suddenly afford a player pay structure modeled after the NBA. That would be reckless, and he knows it. He's trying to hold the league together, even if it means making unpopular statements and drawing fire from all sides. And in doing that, he's placed a spotlight directly on players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Clark, especially, has been used as a bargaining chip, her rising influence cited in nearly every union demand. And while she hasn't personally called for dramatic reform, her name has been dragged into the storm regardless. Cunningham, who's been vocal about the union's goals, now finds herself indirectly checked by Silver's comments. It's not personal, but it's public. And when the NBA commissioner implies the demands you're backing are unreasonable, it hits different. Now the media is picking sides. Some outlets are turning on the union, calling their behavior bitter and spiteful. Others are defending the players, framing the league's resistance as yet another example of how women's sports get left behind. The coverage is split, the conversation is messy, and the stakes are getting higher by the hour. If no deal is reached by the deadline, the lockout will hit, and it will hit hard. It will erase the gains made in the last few years. It will disillusion fans. It will embolden critics who've long claimed the WNBA isn't sustainable. And it will push sponsors to think twice before investing in a league that can't get its internal politics under control. And let's be real, the league can't afford that kind of collapse. So now the question is simple. Will cooler heads prevail, or will this end in silence and chaos? There's still time, but not much. The clock is ticking. The gap between what players want and what the league says it can afford isn't just wide. It's philosophical. It's about what the WNBA is versus what it could be. And unless someone bridges that gap fast, this whole thing might blow up before it ever levels up. If you've been watching this all unfold and you've got thoughts, drop them below. Should Silver be stepping in more forcefully, or is he doing exactly what's needed? Are the players right to push for radical change? And what's the next move if this all goes sideways? Like the video, share it with someone who's following the chaos, and hit subscribe so you don't miss a second of the drama. Because if this lockout becomes reality, we're not just talking about a lost season. We're talking about a league on the brink. With 68 hours left on the clock, the WNBA is standing at a crossroads, and nobody wants to take the first step. The union's digging in, the league's stonewalling, the media's circling, and the fans? They're watching this slow-motion implosion, wondering how it all went so wrong, so fast. And in the center of this chaos is a name that wasn't supposed to be involved at all: Adam Silver. The NBA commissioner isn't exactly the face you expect to see in WNBA labor talks. But when the internal leadership starts crumbling and the league's public image is tanking, that's when Silver shows up. And not quietly, either. His live TV moment didn't just rattle cages. It blasted the lid off months of behind-the-scenes tension. He said what WNBA leadership wouldn't say, and what the union refused to hear. This entire fight is spinning out of control, and everyone's got their fingerprints on the mess. Silver didn't mince words. He called the demands unreasonable. He pointed out the rising hostility. And most of all, he made one thing painfully clear. There is no magical pile of NBA money just waiting to be redistributed to the WNBA. That was the gut punch. Not the tone, not the delivery, but the brutal honesty. It's the kind of statement that players didn't want to hear and league execs didn't have the nerve to say themselves. What makes it worse is the timing. The union thought they had leverage. The spotlight's on women's sports like never before. Caitlin Clark has brought new audiences. Corporate sponsors are flirting with long-term deals. And lawmakers? They're out here name-dropping the WNBA on the Senate floor. It felt like the perfect time to demand a revolution. But Silver walked in and popped that balloon in real time. He wasn't hostile. He was surgical. His message was simple. You want real change? Build real revenue first. That's not what anyone wanted to hear, but it's what this entire dispute comes down to. Dollars. Not percentages. Not politics. Not potential. And for Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, that public check had to sting. Clark, who's barely gotten her feet wet in the league, has already become a bargaining chip. Her presence has been used as a cornerstone of the union's argument. Look what we bring to the table. Look at the ratings. Look at the buzz. Cunningham, meanwhile, has been louder in the movement, backing the union's goals and standing with teammates demanding sweeping reforms. So when Silver, on live TV, effectively said, "Slow down, this isn't realistic," it was a direct hit. It wasn't personal, but it was unmistakably pointed. There were the names being floated in the media. They were the examples used to justify the union's growing list of demands. And Silver, by calling out the tactics, publicly dragged their influence into question. And now, the narrative is shifting. Suddenly, this isn't about players versus management. It's about who's out of touch. Silver's asserting the league needs structure and time. The union's pushing like the house is on fire. Media outlets are starting to question if the players' tone has gone from passionate to petty. Some even accuse them of using spite as a bargaining tool rather than strategy. Then there's Kathy Angelbert, still WNBA commissioner on paper, but functionally sidelined in her own crisis. The criticism aimed at her is relentless. She's being accused of slowing down the process, of being invisible when it counts, of lacking a clear vision for growth. It's not just the union that's lost faith. There's murmuring inside the league office, too. And the question being asked louder and louder is, how did it get this bad without anyone stepping in sooner? It's not just a bad look, it's a warning sign. If your commissioner is getting overshadowed by the commissioner of an entirely different league, you've already lost control of the room. And right now, the person taking the lead, speaking with authority, and holding the only mic that matters is Adam Silver. The deeper problem is that this isn't about one season. This lockout could define the next decade of women's basketball. A canceled season would destroy momentum, kill sponsorship talks, and leave fans with one overwhelming takeaway. This league can't get it together. That's the risk, and the players know it. But they're still pushing. Because to them, it's not just about money, it's about dignity. About not having to fly commercial while male rookies take charter jets. About getting maternity protections, health care, and post-retirement support. About no longer being told to just be patient while the same cycle repeats itself. They're not wrong for wanting more. They're not wrong for demanding respect. But the way this battle's playing out in the public eye, that's where things are starting to slip. Silver's trying to remind everyone that the WNBA isn't the NBA. It doesn't have the same infrastructure, same earnings, same corporate backbone. Percentage-based revenue sharing doesn't make sense when one league brings in billions and the other is still fighting for consistent network coverage. That's not shade, it's just math. And now, that math is on the clock. Less than 3 days left. And if no agreement is made, the lights go out. Training camps stop. Paychecks freeze. Everything stalls. And the very players pushing for more, especially the ones without multi-million-dollar endorsement deals, will be the first ones to feel the fallout. There's no soft landing here. Either a deal gets made, or the league enters the kind of uncertainty that even Adam Silver can't clean up with a press tour. Meanwhile, fans are exhausted. They're watching their favorite players become sound bites and talking points instead of athletes. They're watching leadership flail. They're watching lawmakers try to score political points off a league that can't seem to manage its own labor relations. And they're starting to ask the most dangerous question of all. Is this league sustainable? That's the fear, right? That all the momentum built by players like Clark, by game-winning moments, by record-breaking viewership, could vanish in a cloud of bad PR and broken promises. There's still time to salvage this. But the clock isn't slowing down. And if no one makes a move, the WNBA may wake up in November with no season, no trust, and no one left to clean up the mess. And at that point, no speech from Adam Silver will be able to patch the cracks. At this point, the drama inside the WNBA isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about identity, about control, about legacy. And with the lockout clock ticking down, you can feel the tension vibrating across the league. Players are bracing. Executives are posturing. And Adam Silver? He's taken center stage as the only adult in a room full of people shouting past each other. This wasn't supposed to happen. A collective bargaining agreement is meant to be a process, not a spectacle. But now, we've got live TV moments, public shaming, political commentary, and headlines that look more like Hollywood scandals than sports negotiations. And in the middle of it all are Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Two names that weren't supposed to be caught in the crosshairs, but now symbolize the entire mess. Clark, the NCAA phenom turned WNBA star in the making, has become the poster child for potential. Her name has been invoked in nearly every union talking point. Look at the attention she brings. Look at the crowds. Look at the revenue spike. She's being used to justify major salary demands, even though she's barely had time to unpack her rookie year. Then there's Sophie Cunningham, one of the louder voices in the locker room, standing with her peers, fighting for equity, for pay, for respect. She's not just part of the movement. She is the movement, at least vocally. But then Adam Silver came in, live and unscripted, and effectively told both sides to get grip. It was a clear message. The personal attacks, the political grandstanding, the us versus them framing. It's not helping. And worse, it's putting the league at risk. Silver didn't just criticize one party. He put the whole negotiation under the microscope. He condemned the union's tactics. He condemned the league's silence. He called out the energy in the room as unproductive and unreasonable. And while he didn't say any player's name directly, the fact that Clark and Cunningham are at the center of this narrative means the blowback landed squarely on them. 2. Let's be clear, Adam Silver is an anti-player. He's not saying they don't deserve raises. In fact, he agrees that player compensation should increase, but within reason. And that's where things start getting tense. Because the union isn't just asking for small tweaks. They're asking for a financial revolution. They want revenue sharing like the NBA. They want salaries to reflect their impact. And they want those changes now. But Silver's argument? The math doesn't support that model. The NBA brings in billions. The WNBA doesn't. If you split revenue percentages the same way, it's apples and oranges. Actually, it's apples and toothpicks. So Silver's proposing absolute dollar increases. Raises, yes, but grounded in actual income. Not future hypotheticals. Not political pressure. Not emotional appeals. Just what the league can realistically afford right now. That doesn't mean the players are wrong. Far from it. Their frustration is real. Many of them have been balancing overseas contracts just to survive. They've endured travel nightmares, second-tier treatment, and dismissive coverage for years. They've built a product that's finally gaining momentum, and now they want in. But when both sides dig in this deep, compromise becomes toxic. Add to that the absolute collapse of confidence in WNBA Commissioner Kathy Angelbert, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Her leadership, or lack thereof, is now a full-blown controversy. There's growing consensus that her inability to steer the league through this moment is part of why Adam Silver had to step in at all. When people inside the league start whispering about leadership changes before a lockout has even happened, it's bad. When media outlets start openly questioning whether Angelbert can survive this mess, it's worse. And when Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, ends up being the most coherent, rational voice in the entire conversation, that's when you know things have gone completely off the rails. Let's talk fallout. If this lockout happens, and right now it's looking more and more likely, it won't just cost a season. It'll cost credibility. The WNBA has spent the last few years clawing its way into mainstream relevance. Breakout stars, record ratings, historic college-to-pro pipelines. The attention is finally there. But a lockout? That kills momentum dead in its tracks. And not just with fans, with sponsors, with networks, with future players. Because what up-and-coming college athlete is going to look at a league that can't even guarantee a season and say, yep, that's the future I want? What brand is going to pour millions into a league that just broadcasted all its dysfunction on national television? And what investor is going to support a business model where neither side seems willing to acknowledge financial reality? This isn't just a negotiation gone bad. It's a branding disaster. And if it drags out, it could take years to recover. The union says they're doing this for the next generation, that they're laying the groundwork for a better league. But that only works if the league survives this moment. If not, all that progress, all that attention, all that growth, it vanishes. And for what? Because no one wanted to move first. Adam Silver's speech was a turning point. It was a warning, a last-ditch attempt to inject common sense into a process that's been hijacked by emotion and politics. Whether or not anyone actually listens, that's the real question. And if they don't, this lockout won't be remembered as a necessary fight for progress. It'll be remembered as the moment the WNBA set itself on fire. So now it's your turn. Are the players justified in holding the line, even if it risks the season? Should Silver have intervened earlier, or was this exactly the message the league needed to hear? And what does this mean for players like Caitlin Clark, who are now expected to carry both the league and the fight for fairness? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you think the WNBA can still pull this off, share this with someone following the firestorm, and subscribe for more breakdowns as the countdown continues. Because this isn't just another labor dispute. This is a defining moment for women's sports, and the whole world is watching.